There were many leaders on the 64 Atlantic Bowl championship team, but none led as much by example as the player you're about to meet. He was a fullback and he was a star, and he really hurt people when he ran. And he has given back to St. Mary's in a big way. He, for 17 years, was the driving force behind the St. Mary's Sports Hall of Fame. Let's hear from my teammate, Paul Puma.
Well, thank you, Steve. It's very nice of you to say it. Saved me from saying it.
Your memories of the 64 team.
Steve, you and I have talked briefly before about memories of the 64 team, and most of my memories are before and after the game. As you well know, we were fortunate enough to be chosen by a selection committee to represent the Atlantic Conference in the Atlantic Bowl game. That St. FX and ourselves had won a home-and-home series. They had beat us in our homecoming, and we were fortunate enough to beat them on their homecoming. And basically, in the point spread, they probably would have finished first in the conference. We were both 6-1 at the end of the year, but the selection committee, in their infinite wisdom, chose us. And we were overjoyed to be selected. This is a real honor for us to represent the conference. The St. Mary's never have been involved in this before. And the team, more than the coaches, took over. That was the most impressive thing to me, is that Bob Hayes and Les Goodwin, who are our two major, I guess, coaches on the team, had to do very little leading up to the Atlantic Bowl. We took it in our own hands. I can remember, just like it was yesterday, that the Dalhousie were good enough to lend us their field to practice on. But it snowed. And who do you think cleared the field? We did. We took shovels out and we cleared the Dalhousie field so we could practice on it. And we did that on more than one occasion. And I don't remember anybody on that team ever complaining about having to do that. And, as far as the game goes, it was kind of a blur. It was a real big deal to be able to play in front of a crowd like that. And my recollection of the game is I think our defense were the number one stars. I mean, they only scored a single point against us in that game. So our defense really held us in there. And Dave Murphy, our quarterback at the time, called a great game. And we had the team I consider to have one of the best backfields around in university football that year. It was Ted Purnell, Darrell Burgess, and myself. And it didn't matter who you gave the ball to. We all felt that, we could carry the ball and we could do damage every time we put our hands on the ball.
In that game, the Atlantic Bowl championship game, November, Wanderers grounds, a very muddy field because it had snowed the week of the game. You carried the ball 19 times for 144 yards, probably the best game at the fullback position of your career. Why?
Well, I think the conditions were ideal for me. The field in itself, the condition of the field was in my favor. I think that if I was a speedster, it would have definitely hampered my performance. But that kind of a field, mucking field, was my style of play. And of course, we all say about teammates, but I had a tremendous line in front of me. When you see a hole in front of you, you're going to take it and run with it. And that game, I think that probably every guy on that team played the best game that they ever did in their lives. And it showed in the end, And I want to tell one story, Steve, and I think that I did tell it to you. I'll never forget at halftime, we came into the dressing room at the Wanderers grounds, And Coach Hayes, in his gruff manner as he usually did, started his halftime speech. And all of a sudden, he broke down and left the room. And we all sat there looking at each other. Well, what's going on here? We had never seen Bob Hayes do that, totally out of character, for him. And we just went on back onto the field and finished the job. Simple as that.
You mentioned Coach Hayes, and many have. What impact did Hayes have on your life? What philosophy, if any, did Hayes impart on you that you carried through the rest of your life?
Well, I was brought down here very simply by a person that gave me a phone call after a high school football game. I was at St. Mike's. We had the Brazilian Fathers, and we were playing De La Salle. I had the Christian Brothers, and that was a big home-and-home series. And this gentleman called me after the game, and it was that phone call that changed my whole life, because Bob Hayes came to town, and he met with a group of all-stars in Halifax City down at the Royal York Hotel. I wasn't an all-star because St. Mike's was a Catholic school, and at that time, there was no Catholic league. And all we did was play exhibition games. And I didn't have, I wasn't, my future plans were not to go into university, because no one in my family had finished high school or gone on to university. So it was because of that phone call and Bob Hayes coming and meeting me, and I guess feeling good about myself. You say the philosophy that he taught me. I think the thing is that instinctive, what it builds in you as a person to overcome adversity. And that helped me not only as a young man, but in my career as a teacher. That, I knew things were not going to be easy, but at the same time, I knew that I had the inner strength that I could overcome that and succeed. And I think that that's the one big thing that Bob Hayes instilled in me that I got from him.
You had a very successful career as a teacher. Did Hayes have any influence on that?
I don't know whether he had any influence on it, but I think he was very proud of the fact that I did teach and that I did, advance in the system and into administration. And I think he probably thought that he was partly responsible for that he had instilled something in me that I would go on and do that. So to answer that question, I don't know if he really instilled anything in me to become a teacher, but he certainly was proud and he was very supportive of myself being an educator.
You were one of the leaders on that team. Throughout your career as a Husky, you were a leader. You're still leading the Huskies now. Where does that leadership quality come from?
Well, that's really, Steve, it's very kind of you to say that, because we had a lot of leaders on that team. I don't know. I just feel that, I don't know if I like to take charge, but I look around sometimes in a room when there is when there's something that needs to be done, and you look at these blank faces, and you kind of say to yourself, well, someone, has to take charge. Someone has to do it. And as I said to you, that what Hayes instilled in us, that adversity, that you need to accept challenges in life, and I think by accepting challenges in life, you become a better person. By doing it, in my mind, rather than laying back saying, well, Joe Schmo, he'll do it, but let him do it, But I always liked to take a leadership role, and I felt good about what I did. I was never looking for any praise, and I really wasn't. My satisfaction was knowing that what I did, that I did well, and it was successful. And that's what was a motivating and driving force for me.